Hey, what's going on, everybody? Ryan Graham here with another stream. I apologize. It's been, I think, almost 2 weeks now to the day since my last stream. Just got really busy with work and personal life, and then I pulled a muscle in my neck and just didn't feel like I'd be able to sit here and do a stream and get anything meaningful done. So, but I'm back and have some stuff to share. I didn't take any time off working on the project since the last stream, so I'm going to catch you up on everything that I did, and I've got some stuff here that may or may not be useful to you. So let's jump over to my desktop. All right, so today's task, this is kind of what I wrote up last time. We got all this stuff down here done. So we got our Azure AD B2C tenant hooked up or set up. We've got our API management connected to the function app. We've got the mobile app sort of authenticating to B2C. And so that's kind of what I wanted to show you. I got that fixed, and it was just, RTFM kind of thing. Just a step that I didn't get done in the last stream. So today, let's see what we can do here. So get auth in mobile app working. So I'll actually show you what I had to do just to get that working. And then let's see what else here. So I think we'll focus on getting B2C hooked up to API management, and then maybe start working on getting like Cosmos DB with the profile page and all that. So let me show you what I did here to get the authentication working in the mobile app. And then there's another thing I want to add to this list here, which is the thing that may or may not be useful to you. So let me pull up Visual Studio over here. So when we left off, the mobile app, I believe we try to click login, it would launch the browser, and then you'd log in, but it wouldn't actually do anything. And the reason for that was in Android, you basically have to tell it, sorry, not references, it's Android manifest. So in the Android manifest, what we need to do is we need to tell the Android operating system that, hey, when you see a URL that looks like this, I want to basically register that for an activity within this application. And so this was the bit that was missing. Basically just needed to register this intent filter that would map to the scheme of MS-auth, and then our host name, which is this. And so when Android sees that URL being redirected in the browser, it'll essentially say, oh, hey, that's for this application. Go ahead and launch it. And that's what allows the application to grab the token off the URL string and then pull that in and say, hey, we're authenticated. So this is all working now. And like I said, it's the RTFM. Get this thing implemented and you're good. So let's cross this off, and let me show you the thing that may be useful to you. So I was thinking, as we're going through here and building this thing out, you're going to see some secrets along the way. So things like my app ID, tenant ID, connection string, stuff like that. Stuff that is fine maybe in the moment for you to see, but stuff that I have to go back and clean up because I don't want, just connection strings kind of floating out in the internet. So what I did here was I thought, well, it'd be really cool if during the build process I could basically swap placeholders out. And so I created this build task here. So you can see here in this class, I created this constants class. And so I actually implemented Microsoft App Center into the app. I'll show you that as well. But then down here for the authentication, you know, you can see no longer do I have my GUID in here for my tenant ID, my host name, my B2C client ID, etc. So I put these placeholders in here. And then what I did was I created this build task. Let me pull this up over here. I guess I do need... I don't know why my AT zones aren't working over here. Oh, there we go. All right. All right, so I created this build task, and it's really simple. I've never written a build task before, so this was a little bit of a learning experience for me, and there's still some optimizations that I have to do to make it really reusable. But essentially, you can create properties, and I'll show you how these are referenced in my other project here in a second. But you can create this task or class, and you inherit from task, and then you put whatever properties in here that you need. And so these represent input and output properties. In this case, these are all input. I didn't do any output here. And then essentially what you do is you just override this execute method, and you really just put anything in here that you need to do. And so in this case, what I'm doing is in my project file, I'm saying, hey, pass in all the C# files that are going to be compiled. I care about this one, and I've got certain placeholders within that file that I want you to find and replace. And so down here in the execute, just do some simple validation, make sure none of these things are null or empty. I've got required up here. I haven't tried what happens if I don't specify it, but I'm assuming the MS build system would probably fail it before it even gets in here. And then what I do is I just loop through the files, and I get the file out. I get the metadata, which is the full path name of that file. And then I say, hey, if the file name matches this target file name up here, then actually do some stuff. And so I create a generated code file in here. I read in all the content. I split my placeholders, they're comma delimited. And then I just do like a regex replace against environment variables. And so what I can do is on my system, and then also eventually, like, you know, on whatever build system that we set up to do all the builds and deploys, I can create environment variables that are hidden behind the scenes, and then go through using this task and basically just rip out the placeholders and replace it with an environment variable that has the same name, and then ultimately write the file back down, and then return true if we succeeded, or false if we didn't. So this is the task. You basically just build this, and then in your project file, what you can do is, let me unpin this. So you'll see here, I pulled in my task. So we call this replace secrets task. You have to give it the fully qualified name using the namespace and the class name, and then pass the path to the assembly where that is. And then you create a target. And so what I'm doing here is I'm saying, before the core compile, run the replace secrets task. This is where we're specifying all the files that are going to be compiled. This is the file name that I care about, And then here's all my placeholders, comma delimited. And so those align with all these here minus the $signs, which I take care of in the build task itself. And then yeah, it runs, it creates this constant G for generated, which is sort of a convention. If you're familiar with .NET and some generated code, you'll recall seeing some .g, .cs files out there. But yeah, it works great. And then I just did some nice syntactical stuff up here where I nested the files. So if we look here, we got our constants file, like I said, with the placeholders. And then below here, we've got this constants .g.cs file, which has all the secrets in there. Now, I'm not going to click on it because I don't want you to see my secrets. But if I build now, and if we were to look, using .peek or something else, we'd be able to go in, inspect the assembly, and everything's out there. So anyway, it might be useful to you. I haven't seen a task that did specifically that. So like I said, I spent a little time getting that to work, and it seems to work great. All right, so let us jump over here to the portal. And I'm gonna go ahead. Let's start with creating Cosmos DB, just because it takes a few minutes for that to get up and running. All right. So we'll put that into this resource group here. Yeah, we don't have a Cosmos DB out there. So let's go ahead and create one. So we have to search for it real quick. What's really neat about Cosmos is it'll actually tell you how long it thinks it's going to take for it to get spun up. All right, so within Cosmos, well, let's take a step back. So what is Cosmos DB? So Azure Cosmos DB is it's a NoSQL database, and it's really freaking fast. We've got SLAs around response times, and I believe the last time I looked, it's like read and write 10 milliseconds or less to the 99th percentile. So that means 99% of all your requests, read and write, will be 10 seconds or less, or 10 milliseconds or less. And I mean, this thing scales globally. You can have crazy throughput on this thing. Now you got to pay for it. In this case, we'll be using the free tier, and you get what are called 400 request units. So an RU is like a blended mix of compute, memory, IOPS, whatever, that says, for any given second, you're guaranteed 400 request units. And what's cool about Cosmos is for every request you make, it'll actually tell you this is how many request units this request consumed. And so you can kind of tune things. Now there's also a different mode of Cosmos. Let me scooch back over here. So you can do provision throughput mode, which you basically give it, these are the amount of request units per second I want. You can also go with a serverless mode, which Cosmos will essentially automatically scale up and down to meet demand. So in a sense, this is very similar to how Azure Functions would work, where if you put it in a servlet, the consumption mode, any number of requests that are coming in, Azure Functions, Azure will figure out, okay, I need to start scaling to meet this demand and take care of everything for you. So, it's pretty cool. It's in preview, and it also, I do want to have an upper bound on this thing. I don't necessarily want to go above the 400 free units, request units right now. So I'm going to leave it provision throughput, but just know that, the serverless option is pretty appealing. All right, so we've got everything else out in East US. So we'll put this in East US. What's cool about Cosmos is you actually get a per subscription. You can have a free tier discount. So if you don't go above the 400 RUs in your provision throughput, then you essentially pay nothing for Cosmos. As long as you stay under the 5 gigs of storage. So again, because I'm paying for this thing out of my pocket, I want to keep it as free and cheap as possible just to get all this stuff working. So we'll do the free tier and then the provision throughput of 400 RUs. Account type, non-production, that's fine. Geo redundancy, we don't need anything like that right now. Multi-region rights, we don't need that. And availability zones, we don't need that for these purposes. Now, if you're thinking like geo redundancy and multi-region rights, what's that all about? So if I were to click enable here for the geo redundancy, then what I can do is have Cosmos replicate the data across any number of different regions. And it's literally just like a pick list of regions. So, we're building this out in East US, but if I enable this geo redundancy, once this thing's done provisioning, I can just go through and say, oh, I want my data replicated to West US and East US 2, South Central. I could do, West Europe, whatever region I want, just by a click of a button and clicking save. And then within, a minute or two, Cosmos has your data replicated. What I can also do with these multi-region rights is I can set Cosmos up to allow rights in multiple regions. So if we start thinking a little bit grander than, what we have built right now, eventually we're going to want Azure Functions to run in, multiple different regions. One for resiliency, some sort of like hot HA setup. But also from a speed and performance perspective, we want the compute to be as close to the end user as possible. And so, it probably makes sense for us, let's just take the United States for right now, have an instance of our stuff running in East US and another instance running in West US. We can actually, if you're out in California or, Oregon, Washington, and you're using the app, then you'd get routed to the West US infrastructure. If you're on the East Coast, New York or Ohio, like I am, then you get routed to the East US, and Cosmos will replicate the data across, and it'll be multi-region rights. So you don't have to worry about, figuring out how you're going to replicate the data across regions, whatever. Cosmos takes care of all of that. And then you can set up conflict resolution. So there's a couple different modes that you have. So it could be like, last right wins, or you could set up, even custom conflict resolution, which is pretty cool. And then, availability zones. This is basically having Cosmos run in multiple distinct data centers within a particular region. And that's just there to help, if there is like, like a fire or flood that impacted one of the data center buildings within a region, then Cosmos would be running in other availability zones within that region and just keep humming away. So let's disable all that stuff, and we'll just do free tier discount, provision throughput, and all that stuff disabled. All right, this all looks good. Networking, we're going to be accessing over the public internet for now, so we'll just say all networks. Backup interval, we'll just leave this the defaults for right now. Encryption, we're not worried about customer managed keys right now, so we'll just let the service take care of it. And then we have no tags. All right, so with any luck, we'll click create down here, and this thing will be created in about 13 minutes. All right, I just want to make sure this goes. All right, excellent. All right, so we'll let that hum away, and let's get started on integrating B2C authentication into our API management instance. So let's see here. This is one of those things where it's like a set and forget. And I've done it several times. However, I would like to follow along in some instructions. All right, so we should be able to, I think if I search for B2C, yeah, protect your, yep. So how to authorize developer accounts. No, we don't want developer accounts. Authorize developer accounts. No. Secure your APIs. This is what we want. No. I think it might be down here actually. Authorize. Use. Oh, come on. Where is this? It's going to be the validate-jwt, or is it jwt validation policy, authentication policies. No. Here's a little trick. You can download the PDF and search for, no, it's not going to help. Validate jwt. Yeah, here we go. This is what we want. I guess that was in that documentation. Okay. Configure Azure AD B2C. So we set this up last time, I believe. I think we had both the, or maybe we didn't create the API application. Let's see here. So we need to jump over to this. And if we go here, we'll have to check out app registrations. Yeah, so we created our API. We have our mobile app. Did we add the API permissions here? Yeah, profile. Okay, so we have all this stuff configured. So this is our scope that we'll need. Can't remember. Do I have that here in the constants? Yep. Okay. I see what I did there. Okay, so that'll work. All right, so back to this. Turn, create. So we've got our sign up, sign in, sign up flow, build the API. So we have our API. Yeah, configure OAuth for API management. Yeah, this is what we want here. Set up the cores and validate JWT policies. All right, so we need, yeah. Okay, so this is pretty easy. All right. So we need to go to our API management. And if you recall, we've got our APIs out here. We created our profile API, and we have a version here. And so we can modify the incoming requests and outgoing responses via what are called policies. So you can see here, inbound processing, and you can think of this as a pipeline. Remember, so we've got our front end, we've got our inbound, our back end, and then our outbound processing. And these are pipelines, and every place that you see here where you can add a policy is essentially a place where we can modify the behavior of a request coming in and going out, the properties of it. So what I want to do is for all APIs, for the inbound processing, we're going to add this validate-jwt policy in here. And so let's see what we get here. Yeah, so the header name will be authorization. Our failed response will be a 401 unauthorized. We can leave this message blank for now. Require expiration time. We want signed tokens. We probably want expiration time. The scheme is bearer. Clock skew in seconds. We'll say 60 seconds. Output token variable name. That's fine. All right, so this is where we have to add our OpenID URLs and all that stuff. So if we jump, sit over here. So I'm flipping back and forth between the two different portals for where all of our Azure resources are, and then the B2C portal. So what we need to do is go to B2C up here. And that'll get us into our user flows. And then we need okay, so this is our URL for our config. So if we grab this and come back to this API management, So right here, this OpenID URLs. So this is where we could put our metadata about B2C. And what'll happen is API Management will go out, it'll pull that file in, and it'll have all that metadata in there. And so it can pick some of this stuff out, so that way we don't have to hard code that in here. So that's just nice. So let's save this and we'll see what we get here. Let's view. All right, so we've got on our inbound request now, we're going to validate the JWT header name authorization. If we don't have that, then we'll return 401. We do require expiration time, and the scheme is bearer, and then clock skew 60 seconds. All right, and then this is where we get the metadata for our OpenID config. So let's not save any changes that might have been made, and let's just jump over here. So required claims. Yeah, let's do this. Let me run this user flow real quick. So we're going to say for our mobile app, we want to run this flow for the Open Ethos API. And so if we just run this real quick, should bump us out over here. And so here's our audience. So if we switch back, we can edit this again. So audiences, we're gonna add the app. So this is the app ID basically of our API. And then for the issuer, we want to grab that as well, which is this. Let's save. So theoretically, this should work now, where the request will come in, we'll look at the authorization header, we'll get the token. API Management will validate, it's not expired, and that it's coming from the issuer, and then it's for a particular audience, and that it's signed. So, I don't know, let's see if we can try hitting this thing. So here's VS Code, and what I can do is issue a request here. And this should return a 401. Yeah, JWT not present, so that's awesome. So now if we were to add authorization bearer and try snagging this. I don't know that this will work, but give it a try. Boom. So it was able to validate the token and authorize me and basically allow me through. Now, what's missing in here, at least I don't see it, are the scopes, which would have that that profile scope. There's another test tool. Let me see if I can find that real quick. And test. I don't want to do this. Why don't we just do it in our in the application? That would probably make the most sense. All right, so well, in fact, let me do this. Switch over to the app. Oh, I gotta start Azure. Hang on one second. Later. All right. All right, so if I start this thing up, by the way, if you're out there and you want to jump into the chat and ask any questions or anything like that, feel free to do that. We'd love to, answer any Azure questions or Xamarin questions or .NET or anything like that. I may or may not know the answer, but happy to do so. Just waiting for this thing to deploy to the phone. Oh, there we go. All right, so let's log in real quick. Now this is going to fail actually because we don't have authentication hooked up to the API call. What is going on here? It says I'm authenticated. Oh, excellent. So it's using my cache credentials. All right, so let's get this hooked up real quick. So if you recall, we created this MSAL authentication service out here. This is, you see the red squigglies under here? This is an unintended consequence to my generated code here. So the project itself thinks that I've got this defined too, and if I hover over this, it's going to say, it's ambiguous between, constants and then the one in the constants G file. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to fix this, but it's fine because I actually remove the constants with just the regular constants class at build time. So that way I'm not trying to compile two constants class in there, but as you'll see, it doesn't like it. All right, so we've got, what do we do here? So when we log in, set our access token if we can get it silently, otherwise we do it interactively. And then if we fail, we'll do something else here, and then we log out Okay. So what we need to do is, let me think about this. So we've got our profile service here. And we're using refit to build this thing up. And if we look in our app.xaml CS, this is where we're doing it. So we're creating our profile API service. But we're gonna need to do something else here. Because we're gonna need to get the access token out of that. And put it in there. I remember we had a heck of a time. So let's take a look at refit here. There's a wiki. All right. Bearer authentication. Okay. So we'll do this. Oh, probably want that. And then we can add the settings in here. So let's do our refit settings equals new. Oh. Refit settings. This is okay. So we'll need to create some delegate here that returns the authentication token. How do we want to do that? So we've got the service and we've got our access token here. I'm just going to cheat for right now. What do we want to do? Why don't I do this? This is super ugly, but I'm going to do it. Auth. No, can't do that. Okay. Do not do this at home. It's not going to like that, is it? Because it's an instance. I've done this in the past. How have I done that? Let me see here. I see. All right, so what I've done in the past is rather than let me close this one down. We don't need this anymore. So rather than do what I'm doing here, where I'm creating this and registering this instance, what I've done is I'll actually create in here we'll call this API service, and we'll actually create an API service. And then within this, so this implements API service. I think what I did was in this is an interface, and this actually has the iProfile service on here, like that. And then what I do in here is I say iProfile API service, profile API. Make that read only. And then this is return profile API. Like that. And then in here, I accept the authentication service. And then save this off. And then profile API becomes basically what we did here. And we set our settings up. And then over here, this stuff goes away. This becomes register singleton. All right. And then here is where we can set authorization header value getter. And let's make a little private method down here. Call it get access token. And this will be an async method. And what we'll do is we'll say authentication service, login async, and then we'll just return access token. Name get access token does not exist in the current context. Yeah, shouldn't that just need to be public? I need to do this. We just do this. Okay, so it likes that. Why is it not like... Okay, I just think I had this on the end and didn't like that. All right, that's what I'm expecting. This is not the way this should be done, but at least this will allow us to ensure that, you know, one, we're authenticated, and then also it'll refresh the access token if it's getting close to expiry. So this is less than ideal, and we'll clean this up a little bit, but it should theoretically work, I think. So let's see here. And while this is building, switch over and take a look at Cosmos DB. See, it's created out here. All right, so there's Cosmos. And right now there's no database or anything created, so we'll need to create a new database. And we'll just call it Open Ethos. And we'll put 400. And so because, again, we're free tier, 400 RUs and 5 gig are free. All right, so now we need to create a new container. We'll call this profiles. And indexing, it's fine. So partition key. All right. So with Cosmos DB, the absolute number one thing that is critical to get correct is the partition key. What Cosmos does is it shards the data out across physical partitions that it kind of figures out how to distribute the data, but you need to specify what that partition key is. And so the critical thing with choosing your partition key is you need to pick something that's going to be generally evenly distributed. So that way, Cosmos can use its algorithm to horizontally split that data out. And what you want to avoid is partitions that get really hot where, let's say you picked month. Let's say you're a retailer and you pick month as your partition key. Well, that's going to cause some problems because, throughout the majority of the year, you probably have pretty even distribution, except for when you start getting into maybe like the tail end of October and then November and December, because the holidays come and people are, just buying like crazy. And so you're keeping track of, let's say, orders or something like that. You could end up with, a partition for December that's like this big, and then January and February and all the other months are really small. So definitely need to pick a partition key that will evenly distribute the data. The other use cases for Cosmos that come to mind are like IoT sensor data. So you wouldn't necessarily want to pick like, sensor ID of, let's say there's like one sensor that's really, really busy and then all the other sensors are not. Probably want to pick something maybe like sensor ID and some other value to create some sort of composite partition key, just to try to keep things balanced pretty evenly. In this case, we're going with GUIDs, and they're generally pretty unique. They're going to be relatively evenly distributed. And so those will be the IDs of our users, and ID should be a pretty good partition key here. So we'll do that. I don't know that we need to add any other unique keys or anything like that. So we'll just go with this for now. It looks like our mobile app is not doing so hot over here. All right, let's see where we get. Just want to see if it's getting into here. Oh, you know why? I know what's up. In our view model, we were getting this profile service. So now we need API service. All right, let's try that. I really need to figure out what I can do about that. All right, so let's take a look at some of these tasks while we're waiting. So we got our B2C. We got the authorization out there. We didn't do the we got the authentication. We didn't get the authorization done, so we'll have to add that in there. So I won't check that off. All right. All right, let's see if this is any better. Nada. Oh, maybe. Let's just hit. Oh, look at that. All right, we're good. So let me switch over. So here's our app. Let's just log in real quick. It shouldn't do anything. So now you can see it changed from false to true. So that's one thing we'll want to do is, like, as the app is starting up, we'll want to validate with the authentication service and say, hey, are you authenticated? If not, jump over to a login page. If so, then continue on. So we'll maybe add that in here. But let's try real quick just getting this profile, because I'm curious to see what happens with that. So API service. Let's just see what happens here. So we've got our user ID. And we got a 401 unauthorized. All right, let's put a breakpoint down here. I should have had one down here. Man, why does this take forever? I'm gonna have to figure out how to speed things up. So I have that enabled, and I think there's a setting in here. I can't do that while it's going. All right, so we'll log in. Logged in, we'll get profile. All right, so where are we hung up here? Man, why did that take forever? So here's our access token. I actually want to copy this. Continue. So we're going to return crashed. Excellent. All right, so I just want to see something real quick. Could be that our token. Yeah, so here's our emails. Issuer. Our audience is this. Is that what we have over here? Yeah, so we got our audiences mixed up. So this should be the same. Just snag it just in case. Yeah, it looks the same. All right, let's give this a try now. I don't think we need this. All right, build should be coming up. So we're going to log in. We are now logged in, and we will say get profile. And with any luck, there it is. All right, so it was just a matter of getting the correct audience in place. So that's cool. So we got that working now. Things are a little bit on the slow side. I think part of that was the cold start on the Azure function. Maybe a little cold start on the API management. But that's working out. So cool. So we have end-to-end authentication going. We have to clean this up, this access token stuff, because you know, we don't want to be doing this login stuff. So, you know, we'll probably in the authentication service maybe externalize the state to look at when the access token will expire, and you know, maybe just implement another method here that says like get access token, and if we're close to expiry, we'll refresh the token. If not, we'll just return what we have and then let the API call go through. Why don't we just do that right now? So maybe instead of this, do task. Get access token. Of course, we have to implement that. All right, so what does this auth result contain in it? Expires on. Perfect. All right, so I think what we'll need to do is, instead of returning the access token out of here, we'll just return this authentication result. And then, so we've got, well, let me show you what I did here. So I think last time, it was like quick and dirty, just try to log in. I was talking about everything that we should be doing in the actual login. And so I went through and kind of modified that. So you'll see here, first of all, we try to authenticate silently, because if we already have authentication with a refresh token that we can use that to get a new access token, then let's just do that. No need to prompt the user to sign in again. If that fails, then we'll fall back to the interactive sign-in where we prompt the user, et cetera, et cetera. If that still fails, then, you know, we need to, you know, figure out what to do down here. And then assuming the access token is, you know, not equal to empty string, then we'll return true. So let us change some of this stuff around. So I'm going to do private access token. Why don't we just store auth result? Fix that. So I pulled this from another example of what I had. So I was doing some stuff where, and we'll actually implement this because ultimately for this application, I don't want to have to be responsible for usernames and passwords and password resets and all that fun stuff. So what I want to do is hook into external identity providers via Azure B2C, Azure AD B2C. So we'll hook in like Microsoft accounts, Google accounts, and then also eventually, because we want this to be able to be in the App Store on iOS, we'll have to implement sign in with Apple. So those will be the 3 identity providers that we support. And what we can do in the application, instead of clicking a login button and then taking the user to a page that they would pick their identity provider, within the application, we can just have a login with Apple button, and it'll just automatically handle that entire flow, make it super seamless. And so that's what we'll use this for. And then I was shredding, the authentication result and just picking some stuff out of the token. And so we'll probably implement that as well. But for now, super simple, happy path. Let's just get this thing working. All right, so access token log out. So this goes away. This becomes null. All right. So we'll say if authentication result is null, or now we can make this simpler. Expires on what do we want to say? Expires on is less than or equal to date time add minutes. Then we'll log in async. I don't think that's what I want. I'm going to say if authentication result is null, or expires on is less than or equal to datetime offset UTC now, add 1 minute. I think that's what I want. Then we'll log in async. And then from that, we'll return authentication result access token. Okay. So in our API service, this just becomes return like that. I'm wondering, can I just do this? Hey, look at that. Makes it simpler. Okay. Let's put a breakpoint down here. Got one. Just want to try this out and just see real quick. I should have looked at these settings before I built again. Failed. Authentication service. So, suppose what we could do is this. And we'll just and down here, we're just gonna, I trust that this is going to work, so we'll just set this to false. All right. Access token. Ah, jeez, oh man. Might call it quits after this. Assuming we can get this working. Okay. So here we are. So authentication result, we have it. Expires on, I think, yeah. Yep, so that's UTC. So if we step through this and we just return the access token, we are now authenticated. And so we can call our get profile. And we got it. Sweet. All right, so let's just see, maybe we can add, instead of having to authenticate every time, maybe what we can do right here on the on initialized, we can grab our authentication service and just do a quick check on that right here. So let's see what we got here. And then what we could do is we could navigate to a login page instead of our main page. And then on the main page, we would just have the get API. So let's see what we can do here. This. Yep. Container. And then we can say resolve my authentication service. All right, so this is where in here all right, so let's add in here maybe I don't know. Just making stuff up as we go. Oh, I lost a curly brace. That helps. All right, so what we can do is we can say public client value Yeah, so I think what we want to do is get accounts async user flow. So we could, that's in our user flow. I think what I did previously was I actually stored in like the app preferences. When we do this update user info and pass in the auth result, I would shred that token apart and then save off the expiration date of the token, and then every time I start up, I could read that back in and then just check, basically do what we're doing down here with this. And if this evaluates to false, then I know I'm authenticated, and I would just bypass authentication. So what do we want to do here? I'm gonna do something. I don't know if I'm gonna like this. So I'm gonna say skip interactive login. We're gonna default this to false. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna say if not that, so this will only check the token cache, and if we specify true here, and in which case this will short circuit this and return false. And so that will allow us to decide if we want to do the interactive login, or do we want to not do it. So what we can do here then is authenticated. And on the login async, we can, I need to add that here. Okay, so I want this to be true here. And then we'll say we have to await this. And then if not authenticated, and we'll navigate to the login page. Otherwise, we'll go to the home page. And now that means we need login, view model. So because we're inheriting from our navigation-based view model, we have to, obviously pass in the navigation service. So we have to do that. And then what I want to do is pull over. From here, we'll pull over these two. We need to also grab the authentication service. Ooh, whoa. Don't want that. So we want Xamarin Forms. All right, and then we need to come back and snag these. We don't need this. All right. Okay, we're not going to have either of these here either. We don't need authentication service. We don't need this. And we don't need this. Now we'll get rid of this. Oh, we actually did need, okay. Username, display name. All right, but we don't need this. And we don't need this. And we don't need this. All right. So that looks good. Now over here, what we need to do is the access execute login command, if success, yeah, so we don't need the access token. We don't need this. But what we do need to do is navigate to main page. Let's just do it like this. Keep things nice and clean. Oh, I think I can just do this. I don't think I need all this. Okay, so I think that'll work. This will just, we'll not do anything here for now because this isn't even where the logout will go. All right, so we need a view now. Content page. Login view. Login page. All right, and then we have a stack layout here. So we'll just grab, let's grab these two because they no longer make any sense. We don't have this anymore. And we'll come over here and we'll just drop these in. And then what we need to do is we have to wire up our view and view model down here. All right. This might work. Before I do anything though, I want to go into properties here. My daughter's getting a little wild, so I'm going to have to probably call it a day here pretty soon. Why is this not showing me the properties? All right. I just wanted to make sure I had like all the fast build stuff turned on. I don't know what's going on with this. I'll take a look at that later. All right, let's try this out and see what happens. I'm missing something here. Ah. What's it yelling about? Ah. That's just because I'm too lazy to remove that method right now. I don't think we're using that anywhere. Yeah, I can remove that. I think this might work. The login, skip interactive on the startup here. So let's see. All right, app is starting up. So our breakpoint should hit here. All right, so let's dive in to this. So this is true, but our authentication result should happen. So we should get this because we're already authenticated. And so that won't even matter. Did that work? Something's broken. Oh boy. These are always fun. I wonder. I think I need this. Wait, true. Because I want to return on the same context that that request was made on. Otherwise, it can screw up the UI. All right, so I feel good about this. We'll just see what happens here. Boom. So we are authenticated. And we've got our profile page. So if I call that, it should update. There we go. And honestly, I probably should have left the this logout command on this main page so we can test this out real quick. Did I close that? Yep. All right, so we will leave this here. We'll put all this stuff back. Unbelievable. All right, and then we need to new up basically this. Take this and move it over here. All right, so we got that back. I guess this becomes navigate async to name of login page. I think this needs to be true. And I think on this one, yeah, so we have that. Cool. All right, now let's put this log out button back. This is all that nitty gritty stuff. You need to just get working before you can get into the meat. So I'm feeling good. You know, we're getting through a lot of the plumbing to get this solution up and running. So I'm hopeful maybe, you know, next time, maybe create a page where, you know, we can actually create some content and get that saved out, and then start getting into some of the more fun stuff where, you know, we're triggering Azure functions off the Cosmos change feed and doing all kinds of fun stuff. So we'll see. All right, so here's the app. I think it's going to come up. Yep, so here's our breakpoint. And here we are. So we'll hit get profile. That should work. There we go. So if we log out, let's just make sure this works. So we've got okay, true. So then that should navigate us to the login page. Excellent. So if we log in, we can do RG streaming, and then I created a super secret password here. Boom. So we just logged out and logged back in. And if we do the get profile, it comes back right away. Cool. All right. I think this is a good place to end today. So let's see what we did here. In terms of the tasks, so we created the Cosmos DB. We didn't really hook it up. We don't have our profile page. We did a little bit do this, the app flow with the sign up, authenticate. We don't have the tutorial page and landing page and all that, but we do have, just from what we need to do here, we do have, you know, the process where the application's starting up. We can validate certain things and, you know, take action on that. So you can imagine here if, you know, user is not authenticated, we're gonna go to the login page. And then down here, we could have another thing. I'm just gonna do some pseudocode in here. So, var profile equals, get profile. And, if profile, let me do this. If profile null, then go to profile page. And then we could say, var tutorial equals get tutorial status. And then if tutorial equal to null, then go to tutorial page, etc. So I'll probably build this out, outside the stream, just so that way, we'll be able to just quickly go through all this stuff. But you get the pattern here, and that's the most important thing, is just to be able to do this. So I'm going to mark this complete, and I'm going to give us credit for the B2C authentication into API management. I think we got that working. So next time, it's just really going to be probably hooking up the Cosmos DB stuff. This will probably be mocked out to a certain degree, and then that way we can get into the meat of it here. So I think that's a good place for us to end. Certainly appreciate you joining today. This is a lot of fun. Apologize for not being a little bit more regular with the schedule. I'm trying to get into a little bit of a groove here where, maybe like Wednesdays and Fridays and or the weekend, do maybe not 2-hour streams, but maybe hour and a half or hour streams, just to try to keep progress moving forward. But anyway, with that, I will talk to you all later and have a good weekend. All right, take care.